Does this work better? It's a wider angle.
Looks perfect, man. Looks perfect.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we are live here. Mark has no idea what he's doing on this call. I just brought him in here last minute. I didn't even give him a rundown, so this is going to be a treat for everyone, a bit of a surprise. Happy Tuesday, everyone. We're doing something a little bit different. I think this could be kind of a cool, potentially recurring setup. We already got 13 people on the call. Hello, everyone. What we're going to do here is essentially one-on-one coaching for Mark that turns to like a one-to-many situation, right? I love when we can do something where we can cut once and you can reproduce that over and over and over again. So value to Mark, hopefully, we'll see. And then that we can cast that out. And, you know, if you're just getting started in the land or you're 6 months in, a year and 2 years in, you're going to glean some really cool insights here, right? I was talking about this on one of our LIA coaching calls last night. Sometimes I can just see the world through my lens, right? And unfortunately, sometimes I can be biased. Sometimes I can forget what it feels like to be in the trenches day one. And so sometimes having questions answered or hearing advice from folks that are one step beyond where you're at is more valuable than even advice from me, right? So anyways, Mark, give them a little introduction to who you are. One thing that's funny, every time I hear your name, I always think of Robinson Crusoe, which was like my favorite childhood book. I don't even know if the spelling's the same, but let the folks know who you are, where you're from, and give me the little elevator pitch.
Sure, sounds good. So I'm Mark. I live in Connecticut. I've been a police officer for the last 21 years. I am 43 years old and nearing the end of my career, and I've been searching diligently for an avenue of retreat from the job, so to speak, once I am done with my career as a police officer. And I just wanted that financial freedom, and you know, I wanted another avenue to make money where I'm only reliant on myself and I'm not relying on a third party for my financial freedom and, you know, my financial well-being. So I did a lot of research, came across the land investing through a podcast, and did some more research and ended up on your platform and as part of the LIA group.
Sweet, man. Sweet. It's funny. We have a lot of not just policemen, but a lot of first responders, a lot of firefighters inside LIA. I think you might be the only policeman, but we have a lot of firefighters just in the land investing world in general. I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's a podcast out there that talks about it, that resonates with first responders, what the story is. But give them just a little bit of context. Yeah,
they get to sleep a lot on the job, which is a benefit, so that they get some free time to run the business.
Yeah, yeah. Not the case for you guys. You guys are always on the go, huh?
Yeah.
Are you like a highway patrol or a detective, or what do you do on the police?
No, so I work in a kind of like a suburb of Hartford. It's a rather busy city. I'm the public information officer, so I'm in charge of like briefing the news media on any major incidents. Like for example, we had a shooting yesterday in town where several cars were shot. One person got shot in the chest. Whoa. So I had to brief the news media, prepare press releases and all that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So you're like the face of the police department.
Pretty much, yeah.
Dude, how long has it been since you've been stirring on the land investing idea? When did you first hear about land investing?
So I probably first heard about it about 6 months ago, and it was the Infinite Wealth podcast. They had on the Land Geek on their show, and he started talking about land investing, and it sparked my interest. And so I scheduled a call with his company, and I scheduled a call with a few others. And what I liked about land investing is there were a few pieces of criteria that needed to be met for me. Number one, I needed to work remotely anywhere in the country because I don't want to live in Connecticut for the rest of my life, and I don't want to go to the same job every single day. I needed the freedom to work when I wanted, and I need the freedom to work with whom I want. So I know those are three pretty strict categories, but the land seemed to offer all of those. And it seemed to be like this, marketed as like this boring type of way to build wealth. And I like boring because it's low radar, low profile, under the radar. I like boring, and it just seemed like an intriguing way to make some money.
Yeah, man, you and I both. I don't know. I love studying businesses. Like, it's just a passion of mine, but I love boring, profitable businesses. I just love that stuff where someone's like, they're making how much doing what? Cleaning carpets or laundromats or whatever. And land definitely has that quality and the autonomy aspect. There's few businesses where you have this level of autonomy. It's really, really, really cool. I'm going to ask you two kind of questions just for my own personal curiosity. When you heard about land, what was the next thing you did? Was it Google? Was it YouTube? Like, where'd you go next to start kind of hunting for information?
So the first thing I did is I probably just went to Google, and I went right to the Land Geeks website. And he wrote a book. I believe it's called
Dirt Rich. I read that.
Dirt Rich. Yeah. So I read Dirt Rich. over the course of a couple days, and I got more intrigued. And then I think I scheduled a call with him. And so when the chronological order, I think, was podcast, Google, did some searching, went to his website, uh, took advantage of all the free resources that a lot of the people had to offer, watched a bunch of your videos on YouTube. And yeah.
Rest is history, man. I did the same exact thing. I went podcast, and then I watched literally every YouTube video, Amazon books, all of it. The second question, this is just for my personal curiosity. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat in the land business, a lot of different kind of land strategies, if you will. What appealed to on the LIA side of things, right? Like Mark and them on the Land Geek is more owner finance, quote unquote passive income. So like, what was the defining characteristic that made you go that way?
So it's a funny story. I was in a training class in Hartford, and I got to be really good friends with one of the Hartford sergeants in the class. And he was telling me about a year and a half back, I remember this conversation, how his buddy, his best friend from high school, was flipping land and he was killing it. And I didn't think anything of it. This was prior to me discovering any of this. And then I discovered it, and I went back to that conversation. I'm like, oh my God, I remember he said he was flipping land. So I got in contact with my buddy, and he put me in contact with somebody who's already in LIA. And I didn't even, no, John Leclerc.
Oh, yeah, John Leclerc. Okay, yeah. I was just emailing John before this.
Yeah, so I had no idea he was even in LIA, and I didn't even have any idea if he was even still flipping land. So I reached out to him, and he was telling me how he and his wife have been rather successful in it, and how his wife stopped working her 9 to 5 and basically started working with him full time, and then he actually recommended LIA. And what was the deciding factor is he said what sets LIA apart from everybody else is a lot of other programs or platforms will teach you how to flip land, but very few will teach you how to build a scalable business so that you have like the true freedom. And the business side of it is what I really wanted to learn, because I have zero experience with it. Yeah. And so I really wanted to learn on really how to construct a profitable business and how to do it from the ground up, build a good foundation so that it doesn't crumble as things progress for me. So that's ultimately when I settled on LIA.
Dude, that's so cool. I did not know that. I literally was just emailing John before this. We're actually looking at partnering on a pretty big 7-figure deal altogether. And they're killing it, man. They've only been in the land business for a year and a half, but they know what they're doing. And they've just like scaled up, just big deals, big 6-figure plus deals on almost everything they're doing. And now they're moving into more of like the development side of things. Dude, that is a really, really small world. I find the best LIA members usually get referred. That's usually how it all ends up going. You touch on something, and then I kind of want to pass off the mic, because I think really the goal here is let you put the ball in your court and you can just grill me. And so we can hopefully make a quantum leap here together in your business on this call. But you bring up something that I'm frankly most passionate about. And this, I was personally passionate about this, but I wasn't sure if others were. And before we started LIA, we just started polling people, like, why land? What's most important? And the common thread between every person we talk to is freedom. And like, money does relate to freedom. You do need enough money to jump ship from your W-2 or to have, a safety net. But at a certain point, like, the way you make money also matters, right? And what I found is building a business is the best way to make money. You can make a lot of money as a solo operator, but the lifestyle sucks. It sucks. I'm definitely not the best land investor. People that know way more about land than I do. I've never claimed to be the best land investor, but I will say I think I have the best lifestyle of land investors. And we probably work 5-10 hours a week in the land business. And once you build it right, that's it. You really are just turning into a managing of a team and blessing deals and reviewing the inner workings. And that's pretty much it. And land is such like a business in a box. Like, it really can be this like widget that just goes on this conveyor belt. There's a set process, boom, 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 and cash ends up in your bank account a few months later. And that's the reason I love land. Like, I look at like fix and flippers, house wholesalers. Dude, those guys have it terrible. You got tenants and fixing things and like just a horrible experience. And for us, it's like we've got no infrastructure to worry about. There's hardly any competition. All of our land deals look pretty much the same. So like the remedy is, okay, first you come in, you learn the basics of land investing. We call that the skill side of land investing. Because land is a skill for sure. How to underwrite deals, pick the markets, all that stuff. And then eventually, usually 6 to 9 months, depending on the person, you start bringing in your first few hires. You start building out systems. Start eliminating the stuff that you've been doing that's not really fruitful. Sprinkle in a little bit of automation, and you've got a recipe for a really cool lifestyle business. Which I used to hate that word, lifestyle business. It kind of was like a dirty word to me. Kind of like I thought of people that were copping out of growing more. But I've realized that lifestyle is everything. It's not about just growth at all costs. Lifestyle is definitely important. So 6 months kind of stirring on the land idea. When exactly did you join LIA? It's been a couple months now. Call it.
I want to say I joined at the very beginning of August, and then I went on a family vacation in mid-August, and I didn't really start diving deep until about maybe the third week of August.
Okay. Third week of August, you hit the ground running. So let's just run through holistically the stats currently in your business. How much marketing has gone out? Roughly how many leads have you got? And what's that experience been thus far?
So I've sent out, I think, around 33 or 3,400 mailers so far.
Okay.
Some of them haven't even hit yet. They actually about 1,600 have hit in Greene County, Tennessee. And from there, I've had about, I want to say 8 or 9 leads.
Yep.
And one of them trying to work a double close now. And so we'll see how that goes. And the ones I sent out to North Carolina are just starting to hit mailboxes now, the other half. And then I have another, I want to say 800 or 900 of them kind of in the queue, trying a different strategy that one of the coaches had suggested.
Michael Bull, is that who suggested it?
No, it was Rylan. He actually suggested a way to use the LIA marketing tool, which I just took a leap of faith and I purchased that thing because I was spending so much time trying to find these markets, and then just to not have to use that time anymore to do it seemed pretty valuable. So I said, if I'm going to do it, I'll just do it all out, and I'll just get the tool. So he basically said, one of the nice way you can do it is, because I'm on a little bit of a limited budget, having not have any income yet coming in from the business. He basically said to send out, mailers to a certain county that fit the criteria for a good market, and just mail to the out-of-state residents to kind of getting like that low-hanging fruit. So I'm experimenting with a couple, I think couple counties in Virginia and one in Minnesota. That should be going out probably within the next month.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, the out-of-state, out-of-county stuff, it's not indefinitely scalable. Like at a certain point, like in our business, we just have to mail everyone because there's just not enough whatever acreage range or not enough out-of-state, out-of-county owners. But when you're first starting out, that level of granularity pays dividends. And inside the LIA market selection tool, it's just like, I want this many out-of-state owners or out-of-county owners, and this kind of demand metrics. For picking markets, we kind of give parameters, but what have you been using as like the baseline that you want to see for sell-through rates and total supply?
Yeah, so for the sell-through rates, I wanted to do the 3 month or the 1 month sell-through rate at 20%. I was clicking the 6 month or the 3 month at about 50, and then 6 to 9 months is over 100%.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think if you can sustain 100% in a 6 month period, that's a really, really strong market. And then for the out-of-state owners parameters, how many are you looking for in terms of like just a total number of out-of-state owners?
So I haven't really experimented with the out-of-state and the actual platform. I'm basically going to data tree, and I've been typing in the parameters in data tree and then clicking, that does not live in whatever state that I'm researching it. And yeah.
So there's always going to be out-of-state owners. They're always going to be there. I like using it in the tool. Again, if you've got a limited marketing budget, you will find markets out there that for whatever reason, they're just really slanted to out-of-state or out-of-county owners. Give you guys an example. The first market I ever worked in was a little city called Pahrump. It's in Nye County, just like an hour west of where I am right now. And this place, for whatever reason, I ended up finding out the reason, but it must be like 50% of the owners are out-of-state owners. It's crazy. And so our yield from those mailers was really, really strong. And what happened is way back in the day, there was like a big land boom and these guys on the strip were selling land to tourists and whatnot. And so I find that like areas have almost like a mass psychology around them for certain markets or submarkets. And so the mass psychology there is everyone wants to leave the door. Like they want to get out of it. They bought this on a whim. They don't want these properties. And so you'll find little pockets out there. And as we add this to the zip codes, it'll become even more meaningful for the out-of-state kind of sliders. Markets that have really big percentages of out-of-state owners or out-of-county owners, you'll see that the yield is just off the chain. It's telling you something about the mass psychology of that area. So I would try, again, you can always find areas that have out-of-state owners, but I would use that as a parameter and you'll start to find really interesting markets that for whatever reason, there was a boom at one point, usually a couple of decades ago, and there's folks that just want gone. Like a lot of these areas that have that huge percentage of out-of-state owners, a lot of them have never even seen the properties. And so usually what you're going to find in that process are these older, more defunct subdivisions. And as I started going up market and going after bigger deals, this is how I got my feet wet. So I'll kind of give you like the origin story, right? I started with the podunk cheap stuff, the desert squares in the middle of nowhere. Did that for 2 years. Started to say, okay, I want to go after bigger deals. But I was still scared. I still had like this kind of blockage. Like, why would someone sell me their property at 50 cents on the dollar if it's a nice property? So I started going after what I call defunct subdivisions. So these are subdivisions that have properties that are worth 40, 50, 60K, maybe a little bit more in some cases, that just didn't really ever take off. Like, you'll find that most of them are still undeveloped. There's a huge percentage of out-of-state, out-of-county owners. The first place I started doing this was in Costilla County, Colorado. I found this subdivision on the east side of the county with 35-acre properties that were selling at maybe 40K, somewhere in there, maybe 40 to 45K. And I could scoop these things up like clockwork for $15,000 just over and over and over and over again. And that's what got me into the big deal world. And then I moved to, I'll just mail anyone and everyone. But if I look at our acceptance rate, it's way higher in those defunct subdivisions. And the out-of-state kind of percentage is a good way to start figuring that out. They're out there. They're like a needle in a haystack. They're hard to find. The only way I've been able to find them is with that out-of-state filter. So look out for those. We don't want to go to the defunct subdivisions that have no value, where they're like $5,000 properties, but they are out there where they have big values. You'll find them in like the Southwest. So Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, there's a lot of these bigger acreage rural rec properties that we love in subdivisions that just never really took off. If anyone's familiar, there's a place called Forbes Park in Colorado. I bought so many properties in that subdivision. I got a phone call from them yesterday. They're like, dude, why do you own so many properties here? Same story, right? We buy those things for $7,000, $8,000, sell them at 20, 25K all day long. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. When you're first, like, again, that's not like what got you here won't get you there kind of thing. Like, that's not the strategy you're going to use to get to $1 million or $2 million, whatever it may be annually. But that's if you want the best bang for your buck on deals that are still fundable, they're still big enough for funding, they're really easy to acquire, and there are buyers for them, I would look out for that. Let's talk about that 1,600 mailer piece. So 1,600 mailers went out, 8 to 9 leads on it. It's actually a pretty good yield on leads. Were those all junk properties? Like, what's the story with 8 to 9 leads? Because that's a big number.
Yeah, so I think that I may have been a little aggressive in my pricing, and a couple of the people that I did speak with, I just came out frank. I just asked them. I said, because they were telling me they were getting 2 to 3 pieces of mail a week for people asking to buy their property. So I said, what separated mine apart, hoping like that it was my creative tongue and my letter, but it had nothing to do with it. He goes, truthfully, nobody's ever offered me as much money as you did.
Yep.
So so then I thought, like, all right, well, there's 2 things here. Like, if I go a little bit higher in price, at least I get the phone call. It's better than them throwing it in the garbage. So at least I get them on the call. But what I found was a lot of the properties in the Tennessee, the counties are predominantly like flat county, but there's also like some mountainous regions too. So I was getting the properties with like the heavily wooded lots with maybe little to no access. And then I got a couple that seemed like decent properties, but my price was a little too high. And when I reached out to some of the coaches, they basically said that it wouldn't have been a good deal. So
what are the numbers on that double close deal you're looking at?
So the numbers on the double close is I have it under contract for 90,000, and it's an 18-acre parcel in Greenville, Tennessee, and it's a pretty cool property. It's the guy's got a gravel road that he put in. He bought it for 75,000 15 years ago. And he put a gravel road in, and the gravel road goes all the way up to the top of the mountain. It's like an L-shaped property. So it goes up in a straight line, and then you get to the top, and then it kind of takes a right turn. And it's about 9 acres in each of them. And in the top corner, there's a little flat area where he said, like, you could easily build like a couple houses on that lot up top. And I also looked, it's got the highest elevation point of anybody on that range. And according to like some of the locals, a lot of these people from New York and the wealthier people are kind of coming into these towns, and they love the idea of building this house in the mountains and being away from everybody. And so they said that a lot of people are finding value in like these mountaintop areas or these mountain ranges. So I talked to a couple realtors. One guy I talked to today said that he thinks it'll go for 12 to 14,000 an acre, which would be a killer deal for me if that was actually true. But some of the coaches in the group seem to think that it's going to go for much less. So it's
less than the purchase price, or a little. There's some
no, not less than the purchase price. They're thinking maybe around 130.
Okay.
Cool. But there's really hard to find comps with this particular piece of property. It's like it's either junk property or it's like these beautiful rolling hills completely cleared out.
Yeah.
So,
what I've found in markets like that, like a lot in the Southeast, parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, So like those areas are surprisingly hilly, and there is a big variation in some of these properties. And like a lot of it comes down to, will the property perk too? Some of the soil quality is pretty bad in those markets. What I found is that usually the boots on the ground person that's a real good land realtor will know more than we will. Like if we go back to that example of the 35 acre and that subdivision in Costilla, I could have told you wholeheartedly exactly what the thing was going to go for because they were such uniform properties. I find in the Southeast though, comping is harder because there is so much variation there. So I think realtors are always optimistic because the incentive is for them to be optimistic to get you to sign the listing agreement. So I always like to put a little bit of a buffer on that. But it's probably higher than what we're quoting as well. It's probably somewhere in the middle. So you've got it contracted. Do you have that listed currently?
No, it's not listed. So I'm trying. So the realtor that actually I spoke to today, he said that he doesn't want to do a double close and that I'm waiting to hear. He said that he had a couple people that he could refer me to. So I'm waiting to hear back from an email from him. But this is this 12 to 14K per acre was coming from him after he told me that he wasn't going to do a double close deal.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, you've probably heard me say this before, Mark, but for everyone here listening, the biggest thing, if you are looking to double close, it's a who, not how kind of thing. It's you got to have the right realtor. You got to have the right title company. A little piece of wisdom that I'll impart on you is in this business, never wait on a third party, never wait on a realtor, a title company to serve it. Like they will always do you wrong. They just take forever if they even get back to you. Most times they just don't. A lot of this business, we're dealing with small mom and pop operators, right? So what I would do is I would start lighting up the phone. So there's two things that you can do with the double closing. And the double closing that are actually our hardest part is not getting the seller on board. Our hardest part is finding the realtor to list it. A lot of realtors just don't know what double closing is. They're just going to say no because it just sounds weird. But the ones that do know what it is, it's like, yeah, for sure, no problem. They're very, very amicable to double closing. So what we do is you just go on, we've got a video on here actually how we use Zoom. It was inside LIA as well, or you could use land.com or whatever it may be. Just start calling up some of those land realtors, or even just going to Redfin, who sold the most deals in the last month or 3 months, start calling those people up, or who's selling properties that are like within proximity to yours. Now, usually if we call 10 realtors, we'll for sure get 1 or 2 that are on board to do it. And the next thing is, cool, you can do it. Can you take drone photos? Because with double closing, we want to keep as little cost into the deal as possible. So we don't want to pay for our own photos. I don't want to pay for flat fee MLS. That's why we use the realtors. And I found the realtors act as a good buffer for buyers. The hard part with double closing is if you get a buyer with a new realtor and they find out and they don't know what it is, they can throw a bit of a tantrum. If you have a good realtor to shield you, they'll hold their hand and kind of save the deal and walk them through it. So I would just start lighting up the phones. Anyone that's doing double closing at scale will tell you that this is the hardest part of double closing. It's just finding the people to do it. What you could also do, some people inside the group, you got to have the tools to do it. Like you could use any kind of mass texting platform like Twilio you could use. You could even use Launch Control, which we usually use for sellers, but you can go and have your team or VA or even you just go grab phone numbers for realtors in the market, send out a mass text. And that mass text, you want to just be right to the point. Hey, if you do double closing, call me right now. And very few people will call, but the ones that call are usually serious. So like this is what Jay came up with inside the community. And he was working in Oklahoma, which is a hard market to double close in. He texted 50 people, 3 people reached out, and those were the ones that he went with. So I wouldn't delay that. And also while you have that thing contracted, the clock's ticking, right? We want as much of that time to have exposure on market. What you can also do, even if you're not going to, if it hasn't gone on the MLS yet, or even if you're not going to go on the MLS, you can still get that up on Facebook Marketplace. I've sold hundreds of properties on there. So have others. It's work because you got to like answer their messages, but it's, you want to be getting eyeballs on it in the meantime. And then eventually as you scale up, you'll have land.com, you'll have LandFlip, and those are platforms that you don't even need to deal with a realtor to get them on there. So that would be my piece of advice. We'd probably start a hair over 130 and just, be reasonable when you get offers. Like usually how selling land works is we don't push it at retail. We push it slightly under retail. We expect we're going to get an offer under our list price. We counter them and we take that offer and we call it fine and well. But, to be able to, that's what's so cool about double closing. You could take a junk property and still pull out maybe 40K of equity in it. And that more than pays for your marketing expense there. The other 8 leads that you have you gone back and created any counter offers, or the property is so bad that you don't want to do that?
So a couple of them, I offered them incredibly low offers that they respectfully declined. And some of them I have called back. Like one lady had a pretty nice property and she had reached out and she sent me a text message or an email back saying that her and her husband had been divorced and they weren't sure what to do with the property. And then they emailed me back saying they have an 18-year-old son and both of them agreed that they want to just leave the property to their son. Yeah. So I said, all right, thank you. If things change, let me know. And then a couple of days later, I reached out and I asked, hey, how are things? Just wondering if, that's still your plan. If not, I'm here. We're here for you.
Okay.
And yeah, so I have followed up on a bunch.
Do you are you using a CRM currently? Do you have something to track all these leads?
Yeah, I have Pebble.
Okay, you got Pebble. What I would do for these people is set some kind of task, whatever, 90 days out or what have you, or you could even put it in like a Google Calendar. No rarely means no in this business. I mean, unless the property is just so despicable and terrible that we don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, you should still have some kind of follow-up cadence in place. Eventually, you can have drip emails, drip texts that go out on a whatever cadence. The way I think about it is if someone took the time out of their day to call us off of a random piece of mail, some part of them does want to sell. Like we got a contract today. It's a cool story. We got a contract today for a deal in California. It's a buy for 32, sell for 65, maybe 60 on the low end. Do you know when we got this lead? February of 2022.
Oh, wow.
That's to me, like I there's nothing I like more in my business than seeing my team work leads for 16 months or whatever it is. Like that's super, super gratifying. And most people aren't willing to do that. And really all it comes down to is just set the reminder for you and then eventually for your team. People change their minds. A lot of times it's not so much that we deal with people that are like in extreme levels of distress where it's like the sky is falling, but they're like something will change in their life. Someone passes away, they had a birthday party and realized I'm getting older, I don't need this. Like just that little subtle shift is all we need to get them back on board. And that just allows us the time to build trust. So when they're ready, they come to us, right? I actually had a call today with Calciel, who was came to LIA to talk about entitling properties. And a LIA member, I won't call him out if he doesn't want me to, but he has a monster deal right now, a crazy deal in Texas, like multi-million dollar profit deal. And I think he's probably had this lead for 6 months and just chipping away. And then finally it starts to pay dividends. Let's pass the proverbial mic over to you. What questions do you have? What can we help to kind of unlock in your business today?
Yeah, so at first I described the business as this boring business, but in my line of work as a police officer, we get like extreme cases of euphoria and like adrenaline, and then that ultimate like collapse almost, if you will. And I think it's just because I'm new to this, but when these leads started coming in, it was like, oh my God, like this thing actually works. Like people are calling, and I have like this extreme, like this huge adrenaline pump. Yeah. And then I'd go and I call a few people, and then, it, for whatever reason, they didn't want to do the deal or whatnot. And then I would get that adrenaline dump. And then you start questioning like everything, like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is crazy. And then the next lead comes in, you're like, all right, let's go. And then you get the dump again. But I think that even without, locking in this first deal yet, like I feel like that proof of concept that you talk about has kind of already been established. Yeah. Because I didn't think in a million years I would send out this random letter to people, because I get these letters all the time and I throw them in the garbage. Yep. So, but I get this letter out to people and then they call me, and but it works. And it's just, I feel like it's almost kind of like mathematics at this point. Like at some point or another, like the math is and the timing is going to fall into place. Yep. And it's going to work. Yep. So I guess I'm finding it a little difficult because I do have a really complex personal life. Another reason why I started down this journey to make more money is I have a daughter who is incredibly disabled. She has a lot of issues that down the road, when she's 14 now and when she's an adult, like she's going to need like adult care. And I'm super anti like government facilities. So I want to be able to have the means to take care of her the way I want to take care of her. And and then I'm working probably 50 hours a week at my current job, and my wife works 4 nights a week, and I have the child care. So I'm just every couple hours I'm trying to cram in whatever I can into the business. And I know it's not the best case scenario. Yeah. But I guess maybe a little advice on how to handle that crazy work balance when this isn't your full-time job and you have kids running all over the place. And
Yeah, man. I'll speak from my experience. I got to preface, obviously, when I started this business and now, I didn't have any dependents and I still don't have any dependents. So I was fortunate to stumble upon this business when I did, just at the age that I was at. So it gave me the ability just to kind of throw caution into the wind and put everything into this. And I did lose a girlfriend while I was building this business. I lost a 3-year relationship because I got so obsessed. I was maniacal about it. So there's going to be some give and take. One thing that I do want to unpack, first off, I think everyone here that's watching this video, everyone's story is going to be slightly different, but understanding why you're doing this and like why this matters to you, I think is really important, because you're going to get kicked in the teeth left and right over and over and over and over again. It's just the reality of running any business. And if you're just here to test the waters or to make some money or to buy a car, I just don't think that's significant enough, right? I think the thing that's allowed me to weather the storm is I was really crystal clear on why I was doing this from the beginning. It doesn't like whys are relative, right? Like the severity of it matters more to you than someone else. And that doesn't have to be the biggest, most ambitious goal ever, but I think clarity around that's really important. So obviously a very noble pursuit on your side. In terms of the up and the down, man, I mean, I spent years riding that roller coaster. For me, I was actually just talking to a friend about this last night. I just don't have goals anymore. Like I've gone to the next level of being meta, which is I just focus on quality work. Like I know all of my goals will be fulfilled. I know my why, I know my vision, but the actual goal, if I want to do 10 deals this month or this or that, I found that it led to this emotional roller coaster, because if I didn't hit it, I was peeved. And when I did hit it, it was like this little high. Then I was like, what's next? Right. And so really focusing on that quality of work and kind of distilling everything down to first principles. So the first principles for you in this case, where you're at in this business, it's really going to come down to three things: picking markets, getting marketing out, talking to sellers. If you find yourself doing things that aren't kind of within that trifecta, you're wasting your time, really. I see a lot of new land investors are like, I'm trying to figure out my LLC or the best tax filing status. Like, no. Just do these things. And once it becomes big enough, that will become a problem that you can tackle. And so I'm a big calendar person. I'm a big journal person. And so every week I build out what I call my battle plan. And in there, these are like the 4, 5, 6 non-negotiable things that I have to get done. And if I get them done, my week is a win, no matter what happens in the results category. I'm willing to get kicked in the face this week and lose some deals, whatever it may be. But I know if I did these things, I move the ball further. So for where you're at, I mean, again, if you're doing things that are outside of that, that's going to be problematic. The one goal setting thing that I do think is important is our goals around marketing. Could either be the amount we want to spend, which ultimately is kind of the root cause of it, or you could just have, I want to send this much mail, but again, that's just going to relate to how much you're willing to spend, and ensuring that we're never deviating from that, right? Like that, we have to hit that, because this is a direct response marketing business. You never build goodwill, or you never compound where sellers are just going to reach out to you naturally because they heard you're a great guy. You've got to get in front of people, and then you've got to talk to people. So yeah, here's my question to you. How much time are you spending on market selection? I know you have the tool, so hours going to that are probably less than it would be if you weren't, or if you didn't. How much time are you doing prepping mailers? How much time are you doing calling sellers? And that could be new conversations, or that could be revisiting conversations, right? You might say, "Something I didn't get any new leads this week." Well, I still want to see hours on the phone speaking to people. And then, are you doing anything that falls outside of that trifecta?
Outside of the trifecta, I would say no. Outside of like the initial establishment of the LLC and those calls, like in the beginning, I would say no. My main focus has been, I have spent a lot of time trying to learn my way through Pebble and trying to learn my way through DataTree, just so the platform's easier for me to use. So I've done a lot of like trial and error with those platforms. And I'm really trying to learn Pebble, because I feel like if I get to know that system, it's going to make my life easier down the road. Because it feels like that could be, I don't know, I'm curious to get your opinion, but the one-stop shop in terms of like everything goes through Pebble. And like eventually I'm using Rocket Mail now, but I'm almost saying to myself, in the future, I'm just gonna mail with Pebble, even though it's a little bit more money. Like it's just the peace of mind of having everything in one place, I think, will just make more
value
sense.
to that, for sure. I think you could weigh the cost and say it's worth it.
Yeah. But I would say like, I'm probably doing, it ranges. Like the other day I started working after my daughter went to sleep, and next thing you know, it's 7 o'clock. Next thing you know, it's like 1:30 in the morning and I'm still in front of the computer. And, I had already I picked out 2 markets. I did all my comps. I uploaded the list to Rocket Print, and I had everything ready to go. And it's just so.
So let's talk about this. How much do you have a goal for your marketing currently?
Yeah. So my theory was I wanted to send out between over the next course of 3 months, 15,000 mailers. Okay. So I wanted to do 5K a month.
So let's break that down. Okay, we're gonna say 15K mailers. And that's gonna take you till the end of the year. So let's kind of set the marketing goal, and we'll talk about what you can expect from that. And we'll talk about how to kind of spend your time in between there. So 15,000 mailers next 3 months, and it'll take us to the end of the year. How many markets do you have picked out right now? I'm sure you probably have a decent database of markets.
Yeah, so I have a couple in Virginia. I just did one in Minnesota. one in Tennessee, and one in North Carolina. So probably like 6 or 7 markets.
Okay, cool. And what's your like average mailer size?
I would say probably about 1,000, 1,100.
Cool. So right now, let's just say you've got 7K mailers in reserve. So we're going to need to be able to pick another 7 markets or so over the next. I mean, you could do 3 months. I like to have that stuff kind of built out though. So frankly, getting another 7 markets ain't that difficult. So we're going to say need 7 markets. And we're going to stick to that 5,000 a month, which you're already about 7,000 mailers there in terms of having those markets and that data available, although it hasn't been priced out yet. So let's talk about expectations there. I think in terms of adhering to, you need to pick at least 3 new markets every month. That's going to give us a cushion. That'll give us 9 markets over the next 3 months.
Okay.
Let's just say some of those mailers are smaller. So we need to absolutely adhere to 3 markets a month. I would say I like just some simple round numbers. I do 1 a week, right? 1 market a week is what I would want to see. And look at some of these markets you pick, they're not going to be the markets you mail. So while we said, hey, you probably need 7 more markets to get to that 15,000 mark, let's say you pick 12 and you skinny the list down, and you just take the best of the best. When we're starting with a limited budget, I want to whittle down my data set. So I want to take a list of 100 markets, let's say, that meet my criteria. I want to take the best 5 out of that. Then I want to take those 5 and whittle down the list. The most motivated owners that have owned for the longest period of time, that live out of state, whittle. Because the return on your marketing spend is going to be the highest there. Again, we can't do that forever, but in the beginning, we might as well. So 1 market a week. If we look at that 15,000 mailers, we would expect you should get about 8 deals from that, okay? 8 deals. Frankly, as we've introduced double closing to the mix, the community's average gross profit has gone up a lot. So let's talk about last year, what we were seeing holistically for the community was about $15,000 gross profit per deal that we're doing for deals that we were closing on. With double closing, that's changed, right? We're going to have a higher conversion so we can do more deals, but also like that deal that you're doing in Tennessee, let's say that's $30,000 or $40,000 in spread there. That was a deal we never would have done previously. And so we can unlock bigger gross profit spreads and we can just do more deals. I'm going to be conservative though. We're going to say, hey, 8 deals out of that mix. Let's just use that $15,000 gross number. Oops. Sorry, guys. That puts us at $120,000. Okay. Now, you're not going to realize all of that, right, at the end of this year. It'll take time for that to kind of trickle in. But if you could adhere to that most of that revenue should fall somewhere between end of January, end of February, somewhere around there. So that means you're walking into the year with a pretty healthy nest egg. Now let's talk about what we do with that next year. I'm a big believer that just push everything back into the business. Like, unless you absolutely need to keep your head above water, you take something if you have to, but you got another job. So let's prolong needing anything from the business and just feed the machine as much as we can. This business is just like a function of how much money can you stuff into marketing, how much money can you stuff into deals. It's just kind of like a machine where that's the input. So let's say we're waltzing into next year with $120,000. Let's talk about what we can do with that. This is where things start to get pretty exciting. And we're just going to use this in a vacuum. We're not even going to say, because what's going to happen is you're going to deploy that $120,000. It's going to be staggered. But let's say you might recoup a lot of that money by April, and then you could compound that again and again and again. We're just going to say you just use $120,000 for the whole year, and that's it. So that's going to give us 66,000 mailers at 55 cents per mailer. So 66,000 mailers. This is where the math starts to get really exciting. Divided by 2,000. That gives us 33 deals for the year. Times 15,000. That puts us at $495,000 in gross profit for the year. Would that be enough for you to say, hey, this is working? Like, this time to jump ship and go all in? Yeah, that's what I figured. $500,000. So I'll give you kind of, and your full year with us will be next August. So we'll have to report back and see what happens. What we found is for part-time LIA members that stick around and hit their KPIs and actually follow the marketing plan, $250,000 to $300K is it's aspirational, but it's normal for your first 12 months. If you're hungry and you go all in, the best we've seen is about $500,000 in someone's first year, 400K, 500K. So this would put you on a very ambitious kind of career path, if you will, but it's certainly doable. And the requirement there is that you just keep on funneling money back into the business. When you see that in your business checking account, you can't get excited. You just got to deploy. So you can see, if we can adhere to this 3-month plan, it's just this crazy domino effect of what starts to happen in your business, right? And so if we start missing months of marketing or we start missing our marketing goal, we don't realize the compounding effect of that is really nasty in our business in terms of what we miss out on in future cash flow a year or 2 years from now. Talk to me about just goals for yourself. I mean, what is like that 12-month goal? Like, what would you say, Sumner, this is a line in the sand? I'd be elated if we crossed this. Oh, Mark, I think we lost you on the mute. There you go.
Yep. All right. Yeah. I would say that if I could match currently what I'm making in my job right now, that would be amazing for me.
Okay, cool. Would that be enticing enough to go all in full time?
So it's tricky because after 25 years, I get a really nice pension.
Yep.
And after 25 years, so that means I have like 4 years left. And it's a 6-figure pension. It will end up being like a little over $100,000 that will just hit my bank account every month for the rest of my life. And at 47 years, and say I live until I'm 85 years old, that's close to $3 million.
Yeah.
So in a perfect world, in my plan is to, if I could make $100,000 to $200,000 a year and finish out the rest of my career, then it's like I get all my time back. I have my guaranteed 6-figure income without having to go to work anymore. And now it's like, all right, I'm here, I'm full time, and then I could really I get all my 50 hours a week back. So it's like, but it's really hard for me to say. Yeah, it's hard for me to say at this point, because there's so much more on the table than just quitting the 9 to 5. It's there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree. You're one of the lucky folks with where that's a possibility in terms of what do they call it? What's it called again, Mark?
Pension.
The pension. Yeah, pension. I've got a friend who's a cop up in New Jersey. Same thing. He's just counting down the days, and he's going to move to the Philippines and live off $120,000 a year or something like that. It's a pretty cool setup. So yeah, 4 years, small price to pay, given that you've been at it for so long and you get paid in perpetuity. But that shouldn't distract you from growing this business. I mean, what we would need to do at some point next year is we would start to look at building the team, right? And that career path or that hiring path is going to be generalist VA most likely first. So again, you haven't gone full cycle on deals yet, but you've probably start to notice just like DDing properties or finding title companies or finding realtors. There's just a lot of work that goes on between all these deals. When you've got 12, 20, 30 properties in inventory, that work turns into a lot. That's a full-time job. So they're like your little point person operator doing all the minutia in the business. And then you bring on what's called an acquisition manager. So all they're doing all day long, just lighting up the phones, talking to sellers, following up with old sellers, talking to new sellers, making offers. And that's where things start to get really, really crazy. We've seen about 27 to 35x return on the salary of an acquisition manager. It's better return than what you're going to get just in the land business for mail or whatever it may be. So it's a really valuable hire. And then from there, you start kind of creating like a hierarchy where there's like roles that sit underneath those roles. You can potentially bring in dispositions internally to your business, although I'm pretty bullish on using realtors. Keep payroll low. So you've got what, probably about 10 leads or so in the pipeline right now. Any roadblocks from converting those?
The only roadblock is really been the one lead that with the signed purchase agreement. Well, actually, one deal, it's a lady who's a realtor. That's actually, she's been a realtor in the same area for 31 years. So I've tried calling her a couple times after the initial phone call, and I haven't had any luck. But that she actually had probably one of the nicer properties. It was like 21 acres. It was relatively flat, pretty much cleared, used for like hay. So I think on one of our coaching calls, you had actually recommended like splitting that up into the two 10-acre parcels and selling it off at like 14,000 an acre, which would be a substantial profit, because I think even the mailer said 140.
Yep.
The offer price. So even if I gave her the 140 and I split into two and got, we'll call it 12 an acre, it's still a pretty decent profit.
Yeah, I remember looking at that deal. So she's just ghosted you?
Yeah, it kind of ghosted me. I've sent a couple text messages and I've tried calling. I never was able to get an email from her, so it's really the only point of contact I have. I was thinking about getting like super sneaky and finding out exactly. Well, I already know she works for a Century 21. Kind of just calling the Century 21 number, but I don't know if that would go over very well.
Well, what you can do, yeah, you can just go Century 21, her name, find the phone number. I've found that if they get mad at that, they weren't a good seller in the beginning. If they actually want to sell, most people respect the hustle. We've never really found it to be a problem. The biggest issue that we run into is like where people stop picking up, or they just get indecisive. Like that's where we just lose so many deals, is kind of in that weird gray area. So a couple of things that we do. I mean, one, you got to give them enough time to make a decision. So we can't be on them too thick, too quick. But if, let's say, 4 weeks start elapsing and you start getting into like the months away since your first contact or your last call with them, we'll do what we call a breakup text, breakup email, or breakup voicemail. So just saying, hey, we're closing out our round of acquisitions here. We've got finite budget for this round. We wanted to get your deal in the mix. If you're still thinking about selling, give me a call back. I need to call back before this date. That really gets people moving. Because otherwise, like what we do seems like it has no urgency. It just seems like we'll wait around for them forever, and we won't, right? And there is some truth to that. For us, what's been really an easy way to re-engage people, though, is to meet them where they met you. And what I mean by that is she reached out from a piece of mail. So we know they're receptive to mail. So what we do is we go and use click to mail, and we'll send them just another letter. And we'll usually like put some bespoke text on it, like, hey, we chatted. I'm this guy. You remember me? I was interested in your property. Call me back. And that works really well for us. We'll spend like $5 or $6 on that. It's just a no-brainer to get that sent out. Same thing. If they came in through text, they came in through email, it's usually going to be the best channel to get a hold of them again. I would call the Century 21 number. I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
Okay.
Cool. So that deal's a potential. That could be a 6-figure profit deal. You've got the double close in the mix right now. And that's only from 1,600 mailers. So the rest of the mailers, it'll take time for them to season. I think one of the things that always surprises people is like, call it 3 months from the day that gets mailed out until you like really have a full read on how that panned out. There's probably still more to come from the 1,600, and there's certainly more to come from the ones that haven't hit yet. What else are you running into? What else can we help with?
No, just we've already kind of touched on it in terms of the finding the realtors that will double close. I'm having a hard time mentally, truthfully, with the whole double close aspect, because I'm almost thinking it like from the seller standpoint, like why wouldn't the seller just go and reach out to a realtor and just list the property? And I almost feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not built to be like a really diehard business person, I guess, but I have this problem almost mentally with making 6 figures off somebody when all they had to do was just pick up the phone and call a realtor. So I'm struggling with that mentally a little bit. If I'm being truthful.
I'll tell you. So here's the thing, and I agree. This was a mental block for me, and that's not like a business thing at all. I mean, for me, I really had to reframe it, and I don't know, maybe I'm lying to myself, but I think there is truth to this. A lot of the sellers that we work with, it's like a bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush kind of thing. What they want is certainty. So they want to be certain that this is the price that you're offering and this is the close timeline. They don't like using realtors because it's just this unknown of how much am I going to make? What if I get less than what you're offering me? So the idea of having that as a guarantees really was like enticing to them. And the thing is, you're taking risk. We don't know if you're going to make 6 figures. Yeah, we've taken many double closes where we get a big old goose egg and they walk away with free money from the earnest money deposit. I think everything in life, you get paid relative to the risk that you're taking, right? And they want the certainty, and that's okay. And you can have some upside by taking the risk, and it won't always work in your favor. Like if we do 10 double closes, maybe 6 or 7 of them will work, and we lose out on the others. And that's the reason that we pay them for their time. I think there is an ethical dilemma if you're not paying them to have that contract or to pay them for the time. I know many double closers that don't pay them. To me, that feels not okay. And those people also are so not forthright. Like they're really trying to deceive the seller and do this little sneaky thing where they list it behind. While we don't over explain in that first conversation, we tell them that we're paying for the time to leverage the contract and work our network and things like that. And then in the contract, we have it like spelled out in plain English about listing the property. I've looked at many other double closers contracts and they don't put it like that. It's like fine print. We can market the property. You know what I mean? To me, that's kind of an ethical dilemma. But it's a risk thing. It's a risk thing. Once you lose on enough double closes, you realize you're getting paid for the risk, and we never know what it's going to sell for. There's many deals where we think we're going to make X and we make way less than that. And there's times when it works in your favor. And I think that's okay as well. The ethical dilemma is really no different than if you closed on it and it made a boatload of money as well. It's the same situation. It's just the reality of this business. And I found that people just don't like the unknown aspect of listing the property and not knowing when it's going to sell and what they're going to get for it. Right. So yeah, that was a big one for me to work through. Just one piece of advice for everyone that's listening. You probably already know this, Mark, but when it comes to double closing, let the contract do the heavy lifting, right? When we frame that to the seller, it's just, hey, we need some time. For that time, we're going to give you more on the purchase price. We'll offer more. and we'll pay you for the time in between. You got to keep that money no matter what happens. And we send that money same day. I don't want that sitting in escrow. I want them to feel that money. They can go spend that money, do whatever they want with it in the interim. And then let the contract do the heavy lifting. And people are really, really receptive to it. It's not these people don't read the contract. It just seems like it's just more approachable than when we like get tongue twisted and try to over explain it. And with the realtors, I mean, you don't need to over explain it. If they know what double closing is, they're going to be fine with it. Most realtors just don't know what it is, and it becomes a problem. In some states or with some realtors, they're going to want to see you get a power of attorney signed. That's pretty rare, but you might have to do that in certain situations. Dave says, we put a deal under contract this week from a mail sent out in April to reach out to us this month for the first time. Yeah, that's how it goes, man. Mail goes out in April, lead comes back in. Dave, share the numbers on that deal if you don't mind. I'm curious if you want to put that in the chat. Hal says, I've experienced much of the same thing that he has. I'm listening intently. So it's like Hal's in the same boat as you. What has been most surprising about the land business getting into it? Is it the fact that people actually call back from these letters, or like, what's the thing that you're like, damn, I didn't expect that?
100%.
Yeah.
It's definitely been the most surprising thing, because I just go off like we get offers to buy my house that I live in. Granted, it's not land, but it's a house, and I'm just not interested. But then the more and more I think about it, it's just timing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's 100% just catching somebody that opens up that mail at the right time. Maybe something's hitting them in their mind mentally, and it's just timing. So I guess like this whole theory of the more mail you send out, the luckier you're going to get. And it's like just getting that better timing, and you never know when it's your time.
Yeah. It is really weird how that works. I mean, I think if something really changed radically in your life, those letters all of a sudden might look a little more appealing. When I was doubtful getting into this business about how the marketing worked, I just thought about credit card companies. I'm like, I've never signed up for a credit card I got in the mail, but they keep on sending them, so they must know what they're doing. Like those are big corporations. They're not doing that for a loss. Like they know exactly what they're doing. What would you say for folks that are thinking about getting into land? And I know you're, call it a month and a half, 2 months into this journey, 6 months in total, but in terms of actually getting into the trenches, what would you say to folks that are thinking about getting involved, and any tips that you have or pieces of wisdom?
Yeah. So I think one tip is, it's not really a side hustle. Like this is like,
For sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will hear a podcast and they'll think of land and flipping land as kind of like a side hustle. And it's really not. Like you need to, if I were to tally up like all of the hours that I've put in so far, I think I would even surprise myself with how much time has gone into it.
Yep.
So that would be one piece of advice to folks, is like, it's not a side hustle. Like you actually do need to do the work, and you got to believe in it, and you got to believe in yourself. And over the past month and a half, I can't tell you how many times I've said, this is the wrong decision. What am I doing? But at the end of the day, like I know mentally, like those are just like the trials and tribulations I feel like that everybody goes through. And I've been pretty good throughout my whole life of being, pretty resilient in a lot of areas. So I'm going to push through it. And I kind of see the path for me, and I see the path of what land can do. And I think it's just one of those things too. Like if you could just be the best at any one thing, you're going to be good at that one thing, no matter what it is.
Yep.
So I'll just try to be the best and see what happens.
Yeah. It's one of those things. There's very few situations like this, even if you're not the best, which that's the aspiration. But if you just stick around long enough and you keep on taking action, like the cards will stack in your favor. There's not too many things where that's the case. Like I've ran a lot of different businesses where that it is cutthroat competitive. That's certainly not the case. But give yourself a year, things will start to work. And once you start seeing deals go full cycle, you don't get deterred by those little voices in your head. And they're still there, but they just quickly become irrelevant. Yeah, I've always said since day one of making these silly videos on YouTube that anyone that tells you this is a side hustle is so full of it. Like run the other way. That is the farthest thing from the truth. What we tell people is when you're first getting started, for your first 6 months, expect 20, 25 hours a week to get involved in it. I mean, dude, it could be 5 hours a week just to learn how to use data tree. I mean, there's just so many components to the business that you need to get comfortable with. We got a couple questions in the chat. So Bergen County says, how much earnest money are you giving the sellers when they sign a contract? Yeah, we just float $500. That's like been our standard. We can use that to control a $200,000 property, $20,000 property. It doesn't really seem to change much. The most we've ever paid on an earnest money deposit is $1,800. And that was for a really nice property. But yeah, $500, start there. Most people are elated to get $500. And I think the secret is sending it right then and there so they can actually feel that money. Hal says, Dave, Charlotte would love to hook up and share our experience, encourage one another. Dave says he got a deal. It's a double close, buy for $31,000, sell between 55, 58, infill lot in Bay, Florida. Dave, yeah, put that inside Discord and we can kind of help you walk you through on that one. Well, we're coming up on an hour here, Mark. I don't know if you've got a hard stop or anything. Anything else you want to go through while we're here together? Was this helpful on any level? I mean, even if you didn't get any takeaways, maybe just a little bit of encouragement. I'm not sure.
No, 100% it's helpful. And also it's really nice to get like some FaceTime too as well. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say you're blindly putting like, no, it's kind of true. Like I spent the money and I blindly put my trust into you and your company, not knowing you from Adam. You know what I mean? So it is nice to get that FaceTime. And I will say, like, I've been pleasantly surprised as a new beginner with the Discord and how quickly like your questions get answered. And I've asked a lot of stupid questions, and I'm sure the questions are going to continue that are stupid. But everybody that's been involved has been really good, really professional. Platforms exceeded my expectation in terms of the value that you get out of it. So thank you for that. And but I do think like these are great. Hearing from people like me who are just getting started, obviously I find a lot of value in that. Hopefully others do too when they listen to this. And but yeah, I like these types of one-on-ones, and I certainly took a lot from it. And I'm going to stick to that, 5,000 mailers like you had said per month, and I'll stick to that over the next 3 months. And I do have my salaried position here at work with a good amount of overtime, so I don't need the money from this to fund my lifestyle. Yeah. So I have no problems just recycling that back into the business, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, man. It's a blessing to have your needs met elsewhere and money coming in just to put everything back in the business. Yeah, dude, I think we'll do this again. I think bringing on folks just to come and shoot the breeze is fun. And I hope the folks that are watching, hopefully on some level, this was helpful just to hear someone else's story and what they're going through. What you probably don't realize is the pains that you're feeling that you think are exclusive to you aren't. And almost every other land investor is feeling that right now or has felt that before. And the good news is like there is another side beyond that, right? That you're not going to be there forever, but you will have many, many roadblocks and speed bumps that come along your path. So I think we'll do this again. I appreciate the time, Mark. I know this was an hour out of your day. So thanks for coming on and chatting, and thank you for the kind words with LIA. It's definitely something that we take pretty seriously, man. Like it does shock me to this day that people, it's beyond just putting like the blind trust in us. That's a big deal. But a lot of times, dude, as you can probably speak to, this isn't just as simple as taking a course. You're talking about changing out your life to some extent, building a business. This is like a much, much bigger endeavor than just I'm going to dip my toe into a pond and check out this course or whatever it may be. And there's a lot at stake when someone does. I mean, people come in and they spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing based off of our feedback. That's a big fucking deal. That really matters. So something we take really seriously. Means a lot.
And I work with a lot of I guess you can call us cynics. Like we have a hard time, with trust, and can't tell you how many times I get tell some of my coworkers what I'm doing, and it's a Ponzi, it's a scam, or you know what I mean. And it's like, so I kind of know enough now. I've gone down this like this financial learning curve over the past like 18 to 24 months. So like I know that it's obviously
It's a crazy thing, man. Your perception, you'll get whatever you get, like whatever you think life is, that's what you'll see. If you think this is all a scam and it doesn't work, or this business doesn't work, whatever it may be, that's what you're going to find. But there's other people on the other side that definitely can attest to the fact that it's not a scam. So it's funny. That is the number one, maybe not objection, but like the number one like question mark when someone stumbles across our YouTube or whatever, maybe and they're new to land. Like this doesn't seem legit. Like you're talking about making X amount from just moving a property, and it really is like you just shuffle papers. And look, it's simple. It's definitely not easy, but yeah, we find ourselves in a pretty cool situation. I got to pinch myself often because this business is just a blessing, man. It's an absolute blessing. So thank you, Mark, for the time. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. Everyone that's watched this, thanks for sticking around, guys. Hopefully this was valuable on some level. If you guys like this, give it a thumbs up, and we'll definitely bring some more LIA members on to hang out. All right, guys, have a great Tuesday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.